Janice Lincoln the Beetle and Madame Mask are set for a collision course. Who will be named the new Queenpin of crime in New York City? Well, let's hop into the pages of Spider-Man issue number 42. A continuation of the gang war event and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Wilson Fisk the Kingpin had joined the gang war with enough power to sway it to whomever he chose. At first, it seemed like he was going to fight in service of the Rose, his son Richard, as a group of heavily armed mercenaries working under Fisk had managed to interrupt the Rose's battle with Beetle, but wait, what a twist! Turns out these red-suited goons were never actually there to hurt the Beetle or to help Rose, quite the opposite, they were there to get Richard out of trouble. Yes, that's right everyone, the only reason that Wilson Fisk the Kingpin had gotten back in the saddle and decided to join the New York gang war at all was so that he could leave it again, which basically ends up rendering the last two issues completely unnecessary. Oh no, wait, but it's okay though, because Spider-Man lampshades the fact that this is absolutely ridiculous and is sure to draw attention to the fact that Kingpin very easily could have opened up by saying all of this and no one would have had to have fought. See, so it's not bad writing because the writer is admitting that it's bad writing. It's funny now, right? Aren't you laughing? Aren't you all laughing? Kingpin spins some yarn that is mostly in character about how he sees the world differently now and how he really only wanted to fight because him and Typhoid Mary were going through a bump in their relationship, and getting their hands dirty reminded them of the good old days when they first met, yada yada yada. None of this is important and literally none of this has anything to do with Spider-Man. What is important though is that with the Rose dealt with, Beetle is able to absorb his territory, and with that it's officially down to her and Madame Mask for who will ultimately control all of New York City. Also, hey, Digger got abandoned by the Rose, so because of that, Janice decides to pick him up to join her crew. And I mean, sure, yeah, why not? This is the most Digger has basically ever gotten to do, so why not keep riding that? Madame Mask feels pretty confident in her ability to take down the Beetle because she has way more skin in this game. In fact, we learned that she used magic to turn Shotgun to her own will after he was actually sent by the agency to assassinate her. Again, this feels like this is backstory that we probably should have learned way before now. But hey, context is context, and I guess some is better than none at all. This is also the point too in the series where the book kinda stops and reminds you, hey, if you want to know what's going on in the other gang war books, you totally can. Hey, what happened to those Hydra goons? What about the AIM mercenaries? Whose side are they gonna fight on? Didn't Mary Jane as Jackpot get a special tie-in? Bet you want to read that. Now again, I'm no fancy comic writer, editor, or professional in any way, shape, or form, but I think reminding people of tie-ins right here and now at the end of a story is probably a bad time to do it. Madame Mask decides to go all the way to Harlem to have a one-on-one sit-down with the Beetle. And why yes, before you even have to ask, this is where the two characters have their big "we're not so different you and I" moment, which honestly in an event story that's been filled with so many lazy moments, this is somehow the most lazy because the book didn't need to stop and do this. I was already well aware that there were great parallels between Madame Mask and Beetle. But no, let's talk about it a little bit. Madame Mask says that her father sent her away when she was young because he saw her as a liability and only brought her back into the fold when he thought she could be useful. Janice says that she always knew her father was a bad guy and that she maybe only ever saw him 9 times in her life before she went to college, and that maybe she always strived for greatness in hopes that her father couldn't ignore her, and maybe at the end of the day both women are ultimately doomed to forever fight for the love and attention of absolute narcissists who only ever see themselves when they look at their children, and that maybe only the other could ever truly understand what each is going through, and because of that, let the best woman win. We're gonna fight this out in the park at sunup. Which, I mean, like, yeah, yay for mutual respect, but honestly, what's stopping the Beetle from just totally ambushing and mollywopping Madame Mask right here, right now? She came in without any backup into her territory. Oh, right, because the story would be over right then and there, and we can't possibly have that now, can we? Also, hey, isn't Spider-Man in this book called Amazing Spider-Man? Well, he is. Peter asks Tombstone how he's feeling, considering that tomorrow his daughter could either rule the city or be dead at the hands of Madame Mask. And oh yeah, the heroes never actually figured out Madame Mask was behind everything Kingpin had to tell them, because God forbid Spider-Man actually do any heavy lifting or detective work or uncover any information in his own story when he could just as easily just stand back and let other characters do all the work for him. Tombstone actually has a pretty good line saying that he got got into this gang war in hopes of saving his daughter from herself, but if things keep going at the rate they're going, who's going to save them from her? Spider-Man and She-Hulk vow that no one is going to win this gang war while they're around, and Peter is also sure to reiterate that he only got into this situation in the first place because his friend Randy got shot, implying that maybe he'll actually be the key to getting Janice to walk back her more villainous ways. Now, as the comic comes to an end, the battle lines are drawn. Madam Mask on one side, Beetle on the other. The big deciding factor is that Mask is actually making use of weaponry created by Hobgoblin and the Rabble, because, you know, the best thing the main Amazing Spider-Man book can do right now is remind us of actual good Spider-Man stories happening in the tie-ins. And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 42, everybody. If you couldn't tell, I felt this issue was incredibly forgettable, incredibly disposable, and overall not very enjoyable. It tries to be this big calm before the storm, the issue before the penultimate issue. And yet it fails miserably, because how can you calm things down in a story where there's basically been no stakes to speak of? The worst part is that I feel like I should care more, because as I've said before, I like Janice as a character, I like the interesting journey Beetle has gone on, but I don't actually care whether or not she stays a villain, or returns to her old, more anti-heroic ways. And maybe that's the worst thing I can say about Gang War. It made me not care about characters that I actually did enjoy before it. Having the Fisks get involved in the Gang War and then just at the 11th hour go, nah, actually we were joking, LOL, we're leaving now, is such a shameless cop-out. I'm almost in awe and almost have to respect the balls that it takes to pull something like that. I mean, I guess it didn't derail or contradict any of the good character work that's been happening to Typhoid Mary and Wilson over in the X-Men book, so there's certainly that. But it's like, why even have them at all if not for the obvious reason of putting them on the cover and maybe moving a few more issues? Overall, I would give this one a 4.5 out of 10. This event is a mess, this arc is a mess, this run on Spider-Man is a mess, but you don't need me to tell you these things anymore. I think you know. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow, and, you know, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.